On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about The Work by Rivers of Nile. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal, and we like to talk about it. And today, it's December 1st, 2021, but it does not feel like December 1st at all because it was 60 degrees today.
Right.
There were several motorcycles out today that I saw, which is practically unheard of in December in North Dakota.
Right.
So it's almost fitting that the album that we listened to for the open of Death Metal December is pretty much not a death metal album at all, which is not necessarily what I was expecting. Like
you hadn't heard this before. We were going to this sight unseen or sound unheard.
I was going into this pretty much completely blind. I just assumed it's Rivers of Nile. It's a very proggy death metal.
Sure.
But this leans so much further into the prog side of their sound than I was necessarily anticipating.
Right. You heard their last album. Did you hear the last album at all?
No, I actually had never listened to
something about owls.
I had never listened to that album before. What's it? Is it any good?
It's okay, I guess.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I was obsessed with Where Owls Know My Name for like an entire year or a little bit longer. I just really liked it. But honestly, over the last 2 years, which is weird to think about, like 2019, Death Metal December 2019, what were we listening to? We were listening to the new Blood Incantation album. We were listening to new Cattle Decapitation. That was 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago. And it was like at that time already.
Is this our fourth Death Metal December?
This is Death Metal December number 4.
Damn. Okay.
It'll be Chuckmas number 4 coming up here for us. But it was around that time I had sort of fallen off listening to Rivers of Nile a whole lot necessarily. It's just I got what I needed out of that album. I had the same thing sort of happen with Gojira from Mars to Sirius. I had the same thing happen with Leviathan from Mastodon and that sort of thing. So it's I go through periods where I find an album that I really like and I listen to it to death, and then
you'll suck all the juice out of it.
I suck all the juice out of it, and by the end I'm not sick of it. Like I don't hate it. I'm if someone puts it on, I'm not like, oh, put that off. I hate it now. Like I don't go back around to disliking something after being obsessed with it. It's just like, oh yeah, I feel no desire to listen to that again. But I acknowledge, I got a lot out of that over the time that it did. But it's time for something different now. That's kind of how I operate with a lot of things. I fixate on stuff, and it's hobbies and it's shit like that.
I've sacrificed albums in that way to bad situations.
You've just be like, I'm in a bad place right now. I'm going to listen to this nonstop. Yeah. And then the rest of my life, it's going to be ruined because if I hear it, I associate it with that.
Exactly. But for the time being, this terrible thing that's happening in my life, that needs to take the back seat, or I'm just going to be a puddle on the floor. I'm just going to listen to this, what the hell was the album? The In Flames album. Listen to this In Flames album until I can't listen to it anymore.
And then we will be done.
And then next year I'll do something else.
Yeah. I've talked about this before, but there's a band called Times of Grace. Is a metalcore band made up of some of the guys from Killswitch Engage.
Sure.
And I listened to their first album. They only have 2. One came out this year, I think. The other one came out in 2009. Because it's a side project for the most part. It's like their first album. I listened to that a lot the year my dad was going through chemo.
Sure.
And so I like that album is very much associated with that period. And it's like, yeah, I don't necessarily, that wasn't the I was about to say that wasn't the worst year ever.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of was.
Sure.
You know, lost a couple of grandparents in that 1 year period,
Right.
and my dad was sick. And that was a pretty bad
What year was that?
That was that would have been over the course of, oh God, what year was that? That would have been 2013.
Aha.
That would have been 2013. I think it was 2013. It might have been 2012. I'm trying to remember. I think it's when you're in high school, when you're, in the late years of high school, everything for a while, I think, just for me anyway, a lot of that just sort of has blended together into one big puddle of like,
sure,
hormones and stuff. And so it's hard to remember, I remember the things that did happen, but it's hard for me to remember precisely when they happened. Because it's just a big mess.
Yeah, for me it was the flood year. It was 2011 and 2012.
Yeah,
those two years. I mean, it's weird because those had extreme highs, but our house was destroyed, and then my grandmother passed away.
Yeah,
and then we moved into this awful FEMA trailer, just out in the boonies, and it was like living in a post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah,
and then as moving out of the FEMA trailer to go back into the house, like, oh well, this is good. My sister called, Grandpa died, and
God,
oh man, come on.
Yeah.
And so, that was my worst year.
What album did you associate with that year? Was that the In Flames one?
Sounds of the Playground Fading, yeah.
By In Flames.
Yes.
We listened to that one, didn't we?
We did.
Okay. As that sounded very familiar. We'll talk more about the work later on. But I mean, we've already been rambling on and on about other stuff.
Yeah.
Today was kind of a weird day where you came in, we sat down to record, and I just started chugging the beer that I got because
we're about the same, because I'm kind of in the same place you are, but
I just had no there was no juice flowing tonight whatsoever.
Juice is over here, man.
The juice is over there. I had no creative energy tonight.
Yeah.
Which I feel like I've been in a little bit of a rut lately creatively, where you guys, the D&D group came in on Sunday, and I had,
nothing.
I knew where you guys wanted to go, and I knew what you were planning on doing with the session. So I had a pretty good idea of what to prepare, and I had all week to prepare it. At no point did I have any ideas. And then we rolled around to Sunday morning, and I went, fuck. And so I have a map prepared. Like I understood, the only thing that I really understood is the physical space of where you guys were going.
Sure.
And ideas about a description of the character you were primarily going to be interacting with, that sort of thing. That's what I knew. Other than that, as far as like what's going to happen, fuck if I know. But that's honestly kind of the point of this campaign.
Sure.
From my point of view as a dungeon master, which is what's going to happen. I don't know. That's not my responsibility.
Balls in your court, guys.
The player, you guys get to decide what you want to do. Obviously, I'm going to facilitate you guys going and doing things, and things are going to progress. But for the most part, the idea of the campaign is you guys, choosing where you want to go. And I think I'm still stuck in a mindset where it's like I went into this campaign thinking that this is what this campaign is going to be like. The players are going to drive the action, and I'm going to react to them. And that way I won't have to plan very much.
We've kind of done that. And
you have kind of done that, but I'm still stuck in, the way I used to do it, which is, everything has to be meticulously planned.
Right.
And I have a story that I want to do. And so, when it rolls around to Sunday morning and I have nothing, I panic because I think I need to have a whole bunch of shit. It's like, no, you don't.
So this is basically Kale's therapy session then. This D&D session is Kale learning to behave otherwise.
It's me trying to let go of the creative reins a little bit when it comes to dungeon mastering in D&D, because I think a lot of the best stuff that I have come up with has also been the product of collaboration, whether, most of the stuff that I'm thinking of is like me as a player talking to the dungeon master and throwing out something that is maybe a little bit like far-fetched, but just talking out and coming up with a character that is like, there's been a couple of characters where I basically have character creation was also world building. But I've also played in a lot of campaigns where the world was kind of small. Sure. In a way where like it takes place in one smaller region, or the world is just not particularly big or fleshed out because it's not the Dungeon Master style, and there's nothing wrong with that. So then the fun thing that I like about that is I get to fill that in. Right. And I get to come up with the whole town where I grew up in. Some people don't like to do that when they create characters. And when I create worlds, I like to have a bunch of towns and a vague idea of what happens there and that sort of thing. But it's always nice because I can only come up with so much. It's nice when players are like, what if there was this kind of town? And I can be like, okay, well, that gives me new ideas. I like it when players help give me ideas and not everything is on me.
What if there's a town that's like Europe in the 1940s? What if there's a cowboy town?
I mean, I could filter those through through a D&D kind of like the starter module that came out with 5th edition in 2014. That basically takes place in a Western town. Sure. And it's called Phandalin. In the Forgotten Realms, and it's basically like a frontier Western town essentially, but it's also very D&D-ified. Sure. But there's a gang of bandits that has taken over the town, and they're extorting people and harassing everybody, and they got their own saloon that they hole up in, and
they rob trains,
and there are no trains. That could honestly be a thing in Eberron, though. Sure. Because there are fucking trains in Eberron. Eberron is insane. They have elemental airships. The trains are called lightning rails, where they're basically like maglev trains. Sure. That run on like lightning elemental stuff. Like all of the Eberron is so insanely magical. There's a city in that setting called Sharn that is, I think, bigger than New York. Really? It's made up of tons and tons. It's a city. It's like if you took
Delhi.
If you took a cross section of Coruscant from Star Wars.
Okay.
And then dropped it into a D&D setting. Wow. That's what Sharn is like, where it's thousands of years of people building on top of stuff.
I'm trying to think what the name of the flying boats are. They're called Spelljammers.
Oh, those are not. I mean, they are flying boats, but those ones are flying boats that let you go into interplanar space, right? Versus in Eberron, I don't know if Spelljammers are technically a thing in Eberron. They have just regular airships in Eberron. Sure, but Spelljammers are. That's the whole setting is interesting.
That's fun.
You have there's a lot of like old school D&D settings that I would love to read more about because a lot of them haven't gotten a ton of attention. Like Spelljammer has not gotten very much attention since Wizards of the Coast bought the setting.
Right. Yeah, we played that when Wizards of the Coast. We just had a card game. Yeah, was all that was when we were playing. And Planescape and stuff like that that are kind of classic D&D settings where they're almost not really like settings because it all takes place out in like the outer planes and that sort of thing instead of just like, oh, here's a world. Here's Orth from Greyhawk or Kryn from Dragonlance or whatever. But yeah, that's D&D. D&D. It's it's the thing that I do. It's the one hobby that I really stick with because it's also like I was thinking about this the other night because I was just thinking about working. I was thinking about the subject of the album tonight is about all of the different types of work that you have to do throughout your entire life. Sure.
it just, how much effort it actually takes to just be alive.
Too much.
I was thinking about all that. I was thinking about just like, oh God, thinking about it, how everything sucks and that sort of thing. I was falling down a pit, and I was just like, what would I do if I could just go live in a cabin in the woods with no electricity? And it's like, or, could I live in a world without all of this shit that is partially responsible for making me miserable, that also has this, so much electronic stuff that also has an other side,
right,
that provides me with some joy. But it's just like, what would I do? And it's like, well, I couldn't live in the woods by, completely disconnected from the world, because I would still want to play D&D. I can't play D&D by myself, but I can play it without electricity. The apocalypse happens. I got my fucking books.
Sure.
We got no power. Well, looks like, folks,
candles.
Can't play video games, but you know what? We got some candles and we got some D&D books. We can go salvage some printer paper from somewhere, because people probably have not been stockpiling up on that. There's going to be tons of printer paper that we could all draw our own character sheets on. It's D&D. Just got to find some dice, go raid a local hobby store. Shit, you can still find the fucking minis.
Yeah.
Because people are probably not stockpiling up on D&D minis during the apocalypse.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, things have settled down a little bit, and we now have time to entertain ourselves. We are no longer so obsessed with pure survival. We have some time for entertainment. What do? Let's play fucking D&D.
We need to go into town and get ourselves a clown. So we can tee-hee.
We need a dragon.
That's
I didn't know what you were referencing.
Uncle Barbecue. That's
what a comedian a comedian's value would be in the apocalypse,
which is 0.
It's like, I have no skills, no valuable skills. In a survival situation. I don't know about that necessarily. People still need to laugh. Even in the shittiest things have ever gotten,
I suppose.
In anything remotely modern, people have still needed to be entertained.
Still need a Glee man.
You still need somebody to make things not so miserable. Like, even in the darkest depths of the Middle Ages, everybody still loved that one dude that did that funny thing.
Sure.
It's like, Klaus over there, he can fart out the
there were professional flatulists.
Exactly. Like,
there were, yeah.
Klaus can fart out the anthem of the Holy Roman Empire or whatever. Like, people have always liked to laugh. Even in the darkest of times, they've always been able to look for some levity.
You don't have Amazon Prime, do you?
I do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Have you watched Wheel of Time at all?
No, I have not. Okay.
You're not planning on it.
Well, it's not that I'm not planning on it. It's just I don't know anything about Wheel of Time, which is probably
it might make it better for you.
It's no excuse to not watch it necessarily, but it's just like it's to the point where I'm not particularly interested in it because I don't know what any of it's about. And that's we were talking about that a couple of days ago with me talking about Disco Elysium.
Sure.
Where it's like, now that game has been thoroughly spoiled for me by myself.
Yeah. Now you want to play it.
Now I actually have a desire to play through it, when I was trying to play through it, I was just like, God, this is so much text. I don't care. It's like, now that I know what some of the big events are that I can expect, that I think are really cool, now I'm interested in it.
Yeah, I see that because I read The Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
So I'm that asshole in my living room and sitting there, looking at the TV going, that's different than the books.
That's not the same thing.
No, they changed that. That didn't happen.
I guess I didn't know anything about The Expanse when I started watching it, and that's an established, series of books before it was a TV show, and I thoroughly enjoy the television show. So I'd probably like Wheel of Time. I'll just have to give it a try. I just haven't. It's so weird with TV. I haven't watched a fucking TV show and I don't know how long.
Really?
I haven't sat down and watched television in a very long time. I'm trying to remember the last series I actually sat down and watched through, and I cannot remember.
Really?
I cannot remember what it was. I watched, it's like because I just said it, it's like, okay, I watched season 5 of The Expanse last winter. Mm-hmm. What else have I seen since then? And I can't think of anything. I'm sure there has to be something. I guess I binge watched BattleBots at some point in there.
Sure. That's not really a series. It's not a story.
Serialized fiction. Yeah. As far as that goes, I cannot remember what the last thing I actually sat down and watched through was. I do not remember whatsoever.
I watched Lupin.
What?
Lupin?
What's that?
It's Lupin if you're not a...
What is it, though?
It's a French TV show about a man who's a burglar. He's grown up. He's been a burglar all of his life. He's really great at stealing shit.
I am the burglar.
But he's a gentleman burglar. He would never hurt anyone. But yeah, it's really great, actually.
I was thinking of other things I have seen. But again, not serialized fiction. I watched pretty much all of Taskmaster.
Sure.
But that's a comedy reality show, technically. I guess you could call it's a game show. Right. There we go. That's what you would call it. It's like a game show.
I need to pop in season 3 of
Twin Peaks. What the fuck are you waiting for?
You bought that for me for
I got it
fucking Christmas like 4 years ago, and I haven't done it yet. And I actually actively want to do it, and then I get home to do this.
Oh, it's this other thing now. Watch season 3 of Twin Peaks, and then we can talk about it. Give let's give us something to talk about. Yeah, it's very good. It's also, I mean, it's pretty slow moving.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean,
it is also
season 1 and 2 are fairly slow as well.
Well,
fairly slow.
One felt like it moved pretty quick, but season 1 is also quite short. All things considered, I think season 1 of Twin Peaks is only like
13 episodes.
I think it's less than that.
Is it less than 13?
I think it's at most like 10, if not less. And see, I can't remember how many episodes season 2 was, but season 3 is about the same length as the first 2 seasons. Mm-hmm. It's 17 or 18 episodes. Every one of them is at least an hour long. I think some of them actually tend to go quite a bit shorter because it's showtime, so they have
who gives a shit?
Yeah, they have no obligations to meet any sort of runtime.
Right.
So the episodes are as long as David Lynch decided they needed to be.
Well, and he didn't do all of them, did he?
David Lynch directed
all of
every episode in season 3,
but not in season 2.
No. Notably,
no.
Because there's quite a few episodes in season 2 that you can just fucking skip. Or at the very least, you can skip sizable portions of the episode until you get to the nuggets of things that you need to understand what happens later. It's like the entire subplot in season 2 of Twin Peaks with the drapes lady, whatever the fuck her name is.
Okay.
The drapes lady with the eye patch. Like, her whole subplot means nothing. It has no purpose whatsoever.
Nope.
She loses her memory. She thinks she's in high school. Does that mean anything?
No.
No. She's weirdly, like, superhumanly strong. I think she punches a dude really hard at some point, but I don't remember who or why. Everything James does in season 2 has no purpose whatsoever. It's like throughout the whole series, there are moments where they are clearly satirizing a soap opera. And then James's subplot in season 2 is just ripped straight out of a soap opera with no sense of irony whatsoever. It's so weird. Okay. We've talked about Twin Peaks enough. Let's talk about Rivers of Nile.
Yeah.
So The Work is their new album. Their most recent album before that came out in 2018. It was called Where Owls Know My Name. It was an album that I was obsessed with for quite a while. If you don't know who Rivers of Nile are, they are an American, at this point, just progressive metal band from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And they progressive metal is progressive metal.
Okay, yeah.
You cannot say this is not progressive metal.
No, you're right. Oh, you're totally right.
Yeah.
You're totally right.
Whether or not this is progressive death metal is more up for debate. At times it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is its own flavor of progressive death metal.
It's several flavors.
Well, and like progressive death metal has also never had a unified sound because that term includes bands like Opeth and also includes bands like Gorguts. Do Opeth and Gorguts sound alike at all?
You would never have them tour together.
No,
absolutely. That would be a thing.
I'm almost certain they have toured together.
Gorguts and Opeth?
Dude, metalheads don't give a shit.
I guess.
You see, think of us. Think of how many different bands we like.
Yeah.
If you like, my top 5 favorite bands all are a different genre. And if I saw them on the same bill, I'd be like, yeah,
I'm definitely going to go to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same here, I guess. Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's like Gorguts and Opeth are so extremely different. And Rivers of Nile is its own, blend of different, a jazzier, more like Opeth, where even their
in their mid 90s,
their late 90s stuff
90s?
or whatever
yeah.
was still pretty relaxed at times. It's just instead of going more in the folk direction that Opeth does, Rivers of Nile goes more towards in the jazzy sort of
jazzy and sometimes blues rock.
Yeah, 70s, very 70s prog rock territory that they tend to tread into at times.
And it's funny because in listening to this, you're going, oh man, entirely different flavor of music. All of a sudden, it fits together, but it's like very jarring. And that's right. Saxophone.
Yeah, there's the saxophone. Look, it was the thing everybody liked about Where Owls Know My Name, so they kind of had to bring it back almost.
Yeah.
I guess I wouldn't have been disappointed. I wouldn't have screamed like, where's the saxophone? If there hadn't been any saxophone. There's also fucking theremin on here.
There is.
There's all kinds of shit going on.
There's a song on here that is a straight up mid to late 80s hard rock ballad.
Yes, there absolutely is.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, which that is.
Maybe Someday. I think
maybe one day.
Maybe one day, yeah.
Which I think Maybe One Day is too long for its own good.
It's 7 minutes long.
It's 7 minutes long for what it is. It could have been quite a bit shorter than it ended up being. Wait is also, Wait has its harder moments with Jake coming in with the harsh vocals.
But it's got the really high pitch sort of with the harmony kind of thing going on there at the end.
It's really good.
It's great.
There's one thing that is like, it's like crack to me, which is that weird harmony that some metal bands do between screamed vocals and clean vocals sung one on top of the other. That shit's like crack to me. I love it.
That is great. Then they do this. They do that on this.
They do that on this. Yeah. And it's I really, really like it. I enjoyed myself with this album. Would like any general thoughts you want to get out of your head about this?
I listened to this probably 3 times in total.
Okay. About the same for me.
I enjoyed it.
Say what you want to say.
I don't know how to feel about it sometimes.
I agree.
Because
I agree.
Because there was such mixed tone. And one minor bitch that I had, and I heard myself say to it, "Shut up." Was that the drum mix was a bit too prominent. I thought the drums could have been further down in the mix.
I think the guitars were also a little muddy from time to time.
Yeah.
I think in general, the production on this is cleaner than it was on Where Owls Know My Name, in the sense that like Owls Know My Name was, it had pretty clean production in the sense that nothing was like, clearly wrong with it, but it was also that sort of kind of digital mud that you get when something is like, put through digital production that's
processed.
Yeah, it's a little too processed. Things were probably a bit too compressed, that sort of thing.
What you get is musical cheese whiz. I mean, that's what happens.
And that's a problem a lot of people have highlighted with owls. And this is less on that end and more on like that kind of that hyper clean tech death production that so many technical death metal bands have.
Sure.
Where the production is almost soulless.
Right. It's too
and
clean.
robotic. It is too clean. It does not sound natural enough. And there were times where this, that felt this way. And I think with the guitars too, it kind of depends on the headphones you're using to listen to it. Cause I was listening to this with our headphones at work, which are pretty good headphones. Like the Sonys we have at work are good. They're also old as hell.
Yeah.
They're not new out of the box ones, but I was listening to this on some of the headphones I have here at home and it sounded way better to me.
Sure. And I need new headphones at home big time. I need new Bluetooth headphones. Mine are broken. There are two different places with electrical tape holding them together.
Oh, wow.
So that's what I'm going to have to go
grab
remedy
something. That. Christmas is coming up. So I could get something for you.
If people don't know this already, we kind of have this deal going as friends that I buy him a birthday gift and then he buys me a Christmas gift.
Yeah.
We buy no other gifts at all.
That's basically how it goes.
That's the deal.
Because Christmas is the one I remember because I know your birthday's in February, but I never remember what day it is.
It's Groundhog's Day.
It's Groundhog's Day. Okay. Yeah. It's like, I know his birthday's in February. I know his birthday. What day is it in February? Fuck, I can't remember. Christmas? Yeah. I got it.
You got
I
Christmas.
know what day Christmas is, god damn it. But it's on a Saturday this year.
Sweet.
Which feels weird. I don't like it when holidays are on a weekend.
Hopefully they're going to give us Christmas Eve off.
I imagine they will. It would suck to not have any time off for Christmas.
But they usually do that, though.
Yeah. It would take, I think, a very cynical workplace to say like, well, holidays on a Saturday this year, no time off.
They actually do. Big Mike and I, we campaigned for that shit for getting Easter Monday off. Because Easter's always on a Sunday. Why don't we get a day off for Easter? Because they're like, it's on a Sunday. And then our last battle, our last clash with the head honchos, they said, look, here's the deal. Get a signed note from Jesus and we'll give you Monday off.
Okay, fine. If you really love Jesus that much. Yeah. Well, and it's also one of those things where, like, when you're a kid and you have days off of school,
right? Then
you progress into adulthood.
You think you should have the same deal?
You expect to have the same days off.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, there are countries where that is true because they also, workers in those countries just get way more time off as standard than we do in the United States.
So, yeah, first world countries.
Because because those are first world countries and we live in the United States.
Yeah. I would love it if in May, at the end of May, it was like, oh, look, this is awesome. See you in the fall.
Yeah, it's just like, I'll see you on September 23rd.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic. God, I could go and do so much kayaking. I'd fucking go see national parks. If I didn't have to, like, I mean, everybody thinks about, we're, way in the weeds here, but like.
Well, no, actually, no, this is, we haven't been. We're talking about work.
We're talking about the work. Hey,
the work.
Yeah. We're talking about the things that we would do if we didn't have to do so much work.
Yeah.
And, everybody dreams about what they would go and do if they didn't have to work anymore. And for me, it really boils down to like, I want to go see so much of the world.
I've seen a lot of the world.
Yeah.
And a lot. The sad thing is now I've backed myself into a corner to where if I want to go see other parts of the world that I haven't, my police record pretty much.
Yeah.
It's sort of.
It depends on the country.
I guess it does really. But
Canada,
no. Most European countries, no.
I suppose.
I've done the Far East. I loved it. But
if you can get into one country,
sure,
in Europe.
You can get into the rest of them.
You can get into the rest of them from there.
Yeah.
Not the UK anymore, but
right.
I don't know if that has fully taken effect.
No, they Brexited, I believe.
It's fully gone through at this point.
I think everybody's going.
It's taken 5 years or whatever,
something like that. Yeah. I think there are some remnants left, but
yeah. But like if you can get into one country in the EU, then you can pretty easily travel through the rest of them.
Maybe if I sneak into Luxembourg. And
then take a flight into Luxembourg and go from there. But it's like, for me, it's not even necessarily traveling internationally. Mm-hmm. It's just like there's a lot of the United States that I haven't gotten to see. And the other thing for me is like since I was a little kid, I've always wanted to go. I want to explore. I don't want to go into the big city. I don't want to see. I don't want to ride the rides.
You want to go to all the national parks.
I want to go. I want to get into it. Even if I go into the big city, I want to get into it, and that's bad in the big city. I want to go into, go see the nitty gritty stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
And really explore and get a feel for get a sense of place from somewhere.
The real deal.
And the safer option, weirdly enough, for me being a stupid person, is probably, going the nature route, even though there's bears and mountain lions, but I kind of have an idea how to handle those.
Right.
Versus,
You've wrestled a bear.
Yeah, I wrestled a bear once. Mm-hmm. You don't get that reference.
Oh, I don't.
That's a defunct mathcore band.
Okay.
It was basically deathcore but mathcore.
Sure. What was the name of the band?
I wrestled a bear once.
Oh, it's the name of the band. Okay.
And it's all one word and all lowercase. It was genuinely a great band, but they were also known for it's like a really technical, metalcore or deathcore band with a female vocalist.
That sounds awesome.
Their last album had a vocalist named Courtney LaPlante on it, and she's now in a band called Spirit Box that I've wanted to get into for a while, but I have not done so yet. It's like I've listened to some Spirit Box stuff. I was like, this is really good, and then I don't get into it.
Yeah.
I forget about it, and I don't get into it. And I've been meaning to.
I hear that.
To do that, but it's like everybody. If you didn't have to ever work again, what would you go and do?
What would I go into if I didn't ever have to work again? I too would do traveling. If I had just all the money, and I mean, thing is, though, I have 5 kids. I mean, I have people. I have.
What? It's the fan. We're talking fantasy, OJ.
Because I love my kids, and I want to hang out with them too. But
kids are taken care of. Money's not a problem.
I was talking to my sister today, my baby sister. Mm-hmm. And she's talking about how she's lived with our mom and dad for a year. She's a war veteran.
Yeah.
She's and she can take care of herself.
Yeah.
And she says she wants to kind of get a trailer. And I'm thinking, you know what? Actually moving out into the desert in a trailer with air conditioning, Wi-Fi, electricity, running water. If I could have all that shit
out in the middle of fucking nowhere,
out in the middle of the desert, and I could just step outside and look. There's a mountain range right here. There's fucking desert here.
Hell
there's nobody else.
Sounds pretty nice.
The dream.
That's me too. Not the desert for me necessarily. I'm more of a forest kind. I want some trees. I want maybe not I like mountains, but I think about Maine a lot.
Sure.
I think Maine's my kind of place.
I want to go. I've never been to Maine. That's the state. Yeah. That's the United States. I haven't.
The only one.
My body hasn't physically been in. I mean, there are states in the Union where I didn't get out of the car.
Yeah.
But I was physically in the borders of that state.
You were in the space.
All of them except for Maine.
But I think of all the trees, and it's fairly dramatic landscape still. It's not, it's not Rocky Mountains, but it's not flat either.
You know what else they have there? They have some great chowder. And some lobster.
Lobster, yeah, absolutely. But I think about that, and it's like if if I had all the money in the world, just I don't need a huge house, but it's like, okay, I have rooms. I got room for all of my audio and all my all my computer stuff. Mm-hmm. I can have a room that's just for music with my with a record player in it, a huge stereo. I think about that, and it's just but I'd love to have that out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
In the middle of nowhere with, I can just sit out on my porch and see nobody.
Yeah, see, my mom and dad have their house is in outside of Las Cruces, New Mexico, and it's there are other houses, but you really can't see them from their house so much. And when I was staying there last year, when my brother passed, and I was staying in their sort of their music room, but it had a futon in it.
Okay,
so I'm going to sleep in here, and it also had French doors that open, and it had a gate on the outside of the French doors. I left that shit open all the time because I could lay there in bed, and then it would be dark, and everybody's asleep, and I'm sitting there, and I'm having a little glass of rum. And I can hear hundreds of coyotes.
Oh, God.
Just out there.
That would honestly freak me out a little bit.
It freaked me out at first, but it was like, this is so soothing.
It would I think the thing is, it would freak me out for a couple of seconds, and then it would annoy me.
Yes, children.
I find
sing
this song
to me.
The song they're singing is they never shut the fuck up. God. I would be that guy who walks out onto his porch with a fucking gun and just shoots into the ground nearby just so the gunshot shuts them up for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, but see, in my mind, the yelling was because they found something and they killed it. And
that's thinking, exactly what it is usually. Or mom comes back to the den with something to eat and all the fucking pups freak out.
Right.
Coyotes are annoying. I don't like them. I don't like them at all.
Also, there's tarantulas and scorpions.
That I don't like that.
And
I'm not an arachnophobe, but sure. I don't care for them.
Also, every plant in and around my mom and dad's
property wants to hurt you.
Wants to kill the shit out of you.
I remember being 4 years old. Yeah. The week I turned 4 at my grandparents' place in Arizona. And being a 4-year-old kid raised with a big yard that was perfectly manicured grass, trying to walk around barefoot going, why does it hurt? Why does it hurt to step everywhere? Because I was used to be able to run around carefree, barefoot everywhere I go. Yeah, you know who doesn't make any money living in southern New Mexico? The guy who installs fucking sprinkler systems. Exactly.
No one's growing grass.
Southern New Mexico
that's a fight you're never gonna win.
Anywhere in Arizona. If you have a lawn in Arizona, it's because you're a billionaire.
Yeah. Or you're living on a golf course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because if you have a lawn in Arizona, you'll be first on the list when the revolution starts.
You're going to be the first body on the spit turned over the fire.
They're coming for you.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get back to the album, the work. The work for tonight is talking about Rivers of Nile. Do you think this album slaps?
Sometimes.
Most of the time. Well, I don't even know about most of the time. Yeah, honestly, on this one, it's kind of 50-50.
Yeah.
It's 50% of the time it slaps. The other half, it's kind of like spacey, kind of, whoa.
Okay, if we're going to go with what the kids say, hey, this slaps, and not, well, this really slaps as far as it's slapping thrash metal, death metal. A lot of the times where they're being slow and spacey and crazy like that, that kind of works.
It works.
Yeah,
there's moments where it kind of outstays its welcome.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about maybe one day being 7 minutes long.
Right.
That would have worked, I think, a lot better if it was
3.5.
3.5, 4,
sure,
maybe 5 minutes. It goes on for a little bit too long.
Right.
Is the problem there. And that's a problem that, the last track doesn't really have, because the whole thing is dedicated to being like spacey and slow and atmospheric.
It's space rock. Yeah. I mean, and there's some death metal elements in the last track as well.
There absolutely are, but it's like, not entirely. It's hard to consider this album purely a progressive death metal album, which is, also fine, because it's like, hey, we got 5 Wednesdays in December, so whatever.
Right.
But it's It is what it is.
It is what it is.
I was looking. I could only find 4 reviews that actually gave a score, and so that averaged out to 93.75.
Really, they really like this.
There are some publications that are really, really keen on this album. There's some other publications where they didn't give a score, but it seemed like they were not particularly keen on it. And that was kind of the case with Owls as well, where it was, I think the majority of people enjoyed that album, but the people who didn't enjoy that album were fairly it was never in like this deserves a 20% or this is awful, but it was just like, this is like a 60. Okay. This is like a 60%.
Sure, it's not a failure, but
it's not it's not overall bad, but this, the reviews that actually gave scores that I could find were all pretty positive. And the ones that seemed to be less positive were usually, more essay format ones that didn't necessarily give an actual score to it. This album also hasn't been out for particularly long. I'm trying to remember exactly when this came out. If I can take a look here on their Wikipedia page really quick. Oh, wow. This actually has been out for longer than I thought. This came out on September 24th.
Oh, so
I thought this album came out much more recently than that. Shows you how much I have my finger to the pulse on what's going on with this band.
Couple of months
apparently.
It's been out.
It's been out a couple of months. I could have swore this came out a couple of weeks ago. But it is their newest album, and it's still new, but I just kind of assumed this was much more recent. But it's like the last couple of months have been so crazy for album releases.
A lot of people have been, oh God, we've been recording this album for 2 years.
Yeah.
Here we go.
It's like people are vaccinated and you can go on tour or whatever.
Right.
For however much longer that lasts.
Sure.
Get your booster shots, people. But yeah, it's 93.75.
Sure.
What's your favorite song?
I like the opening track, The Tower. I enjoy that one. You know what's funny? I kind of like Wait. I enjoyed that.
I like The Wait as well.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. And there's where sound has no, the hell is that
called? The Void from Which No Sound Escapes. That's what I wrote down as my
I like
my
that
favorite.
song a lot.
Although I wrote that down as my favorite by default when you walked in because I had not decided.
Yeah, it's hard with this. It's hard to know which one is your favorite.
Yeah, none of them like jumped out at me head and shoulders above the others. There are some that I dislike more than we've talked about. Like there's a lot that I do like about Maybe One Day.
Yeah.
It's not a bad song. It's just a little overlong. That's its main problem. But like as far as selecting a favorite, it's like I don't know. The thing about like the Void from Which No Sound Escapes is it's there's another like progressive death metal band called Fallujah. That like their newest album I've listened to and it's like, it's okay, but the album before their newest one I really, really enjoyed, and that's very, very spacey. And it reminded me a lot of that band. That song in particular. What medal are you bestowing upon the work like Maz Kanata to Chewbacca?
I'm gonna give it a silver. I think it's probably in the silver range.
Yeah. I didn't write anything down because I was like, maybe in our discussion I'll figure out. Right now I have to give it a silver.
Yeah,
because I think like I have not had quite the same visceral reaction to this album the same way that I did to Owls.
Sure.
Like that album grabbed me and did not let go from the moment I first listened to it.
Right.
I listened to it by chance. It came up as a suggestion on Spotify and I was like, that's cool album art. And I listened to it and went, whoa. And I made that exact same sound and voice for like a year. Whoa, dude. And this album didn't do that to me. It was, it's a lot to chew on, but it's not the same. I think I'm kind of just inoculated to their style at this point. where it's not as novel as it was. And so I'm probably viewing things a little bit more objectively at this point, which is something I wasn't capable of with Owls because it was their sound was so novel to me. It was so new. It was like nothing I had heard before.
This would be like the Omicron strain of Niles of River. Niles of River? Yeah.
Frasier. We're going to this party. I don't know.
That was not even close.
I haven't seen an episode of Frasier.
Never seen.
I'm sure I have. I'm sure I have seen an episode of Frasier at some point in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I have not. I know what Frasier Crane sounds like because
it sounds like this. Frasier Crane.
I know what Frasier sounds like because I've seen Cheers, but I did not progress through. I did not progress to Frasier, unfortunately, so I don't know what Niles sounds like. I just know I know that's his brother.
Yeah,
I know that's his brother, and they're fancy boys.
Yeah, and okay, you've seen Hellboy, right?
Yeah.
The same actor did the voice of Abe Sapien.
No.
Yeah.
No. Abe Sapien did
in the first movie. In the first movie, it was done by because they had Doug Jones
in the suit,
and he did the original like that. And then when the actor came in, he's like, he's perfect. Why do you need me? So well, we kind of want your name. And then he agreed to do the voiceover, and he did it. And at the end, he was like, please, just don't put my name on it. Just say it's fucking Doug Jones.
Just let Doug do it next time.
Just give it to him. Yeah, just give it to him the next time.
Which is what they did.
Yeah.
In Hellboy 2. Mm-hmm. And Doug Jones is fantastic. Mm-hmm. Doug Jones is always fantastic.
He is.
I'm still fucking sad that coronavirus took away my opportunity to interview Doug Jones. It's the only time I have ever wanted to interview somebody on radio because I wanted to talk to Doug Jones because he was going to be in town for our little nerd convention.
Right, our little, what is it called?
For Magicon.
Magicon, yeah.
He was going to be in town. And
that would have been awesome.
Then coronavirus happened and that wasn't, that didn't happen anymore. It's like I really wanted to talk to Doug Jones. It's just be like, I think you're fantastic. Yeah. I love every movie I've seen you in.
Who else is the Shape of Water? Yeah.
The Shape of Water is a very tall, very skinny English man.
Is he English?
No, Doug Jones might be American.
No, American.
Doug Jones is American, I think.
And very religious.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Is he from Jonestown?
No, not that religious.
Not that kind of religious.
Otherwise, some cherry Kool-Aid would have taken him out. But I mean,
not the politician Doug Jones.
No.
Who he served from 1997 to 2001 in the Northern District of Alabama, so he's probably also very religious.
Entirely different dude.
Doug Jones. Actor. Yeah, he's American. Yeah. Okay. I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. I thought he was British for some reason. So yeah, that's our discussion of the work, I guess.
By Rivers of Nile.
By Rivers of Nile. Mm-hmm. It's a good album. You should listen to it.
Give it a spin.
And honestly, like
entertaining.
Normally my criteria for is something a gold is do I want to listen to it again? But that's usually like I need to listen to it again.
Right.
Where this is like I want to listen to it again just to see, just so I can get more out of it. Mm-hmm. So I can pay more attention to the instruments and try and absorb more of the information.
Sure.
Because that's just progressive music. That's prog rock or anything else is. If it's any good, it kind of demands multiple listens to truly absorb.
Because there are a lot of elements in there.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Speaking of things going on, next week, continuing Death Metal December.
Death Metal December. Now, I did note, and I have listened to the new Carcass album that came out here a couple of months ago. Mm-hmm. Very good. But before that, I've been meaning to bring this album to the podcast for so long, and I just need to throw it at you.
You got to do it.
Been Caught Buttering by Pungent Stench.
Oh, God. All right.
It is actually a really good album.
I'm sure it is.
It's good. It's very entertaining. It's not as serious as what we had this week.
Yeah.
This is a little less serious.
Do you mean to tell me that an album called Been Caught Buttering by a band called Pungent Stench doesn't take itself very seriously?
Well, and here's the funny thing is you listen to it and they walk that line so very well with being very great death metal musicians.
Yeah.
And are they fucking with me right now?
Well, that's the best. That's the best stuff. I mean, that's. I mean, it's more clear that, like, I was thinking of Necrogoblicon, where it's like, it's clear that it's comedic and they're not taking the themes and lyrics very seriously, but the music is taken pretty seriously.
Very seriously.
They're serious musicians.
Or like Steel Panther.
Yeah. It's like, it's legitimately pretty good, glam metal. But also, it's an excuse for a bunch of, ex-teachers to have people show them their tits.
I love their bass player recently resigned because he's going to go put makeup on dogs. He's going to be a puppy beautician. And the letter that Ralph wrote for his leaving was just, it was beautiful. It was brilliant.
Hilarious. By the way, there's a new Wonder Years single out that's apparently a Christmas song. You started playing a little bit of it.
I did, yeah. I listened to the rest of it when I got home.
I forgot to do that, so I'm going to be doing that once we're wrapped up for the night. Right. But like, I was listening to that, I was just like, I didn't learn it was supposed to be a Christmas song until after we had listened to part of it. It's just like, this just is sad. It's the Wonder Years, so of course it is. And it's just, the song is fucking called Threadbare. If that's not going to be a slightly depressing song.
He's talking about his sweater that's, and there's memories and he's home and
it's a, classic Wonder Years sort of bittersweet sort of stuff. It's the thing that I adore about them. So yeah, there's more Wonder Years in the world. That's never something I'm going to complain about. I'm wearing a fucking Wonder Years hoodie right now.
He is. He is entirely wearing that. That was in fact, Spotify said that you listened to that more than anything else last year.
That is true. Spotify Wrapped came out today, and
I feel like that's premature. I mean,
it's pretty early in December. Yeah, they should have given it a little bit more time.
But it got a whole other month.
But yeah, my number one artist was the Wonder Years. Number two was Panopticon.
Sure.
Number three was composer Steve Jablonsky, who I know as the composer for the soundtrack for Gears of War 2 and 3. He also has done all the Transformers movies because, the thing everybody remembers about Transformers is the score.
Sure.
But, it's a paycheck. 4 is Converge, and then 5 was Caspian, and then it, kind of goes on from there. But
because he's a sad boy.
I'm a sad boy. Yes, the saddest band in the world, Converge. I mean, their most recent album. I don't know if I would call their most recent album sad. It's dark and gloomy.
Sure,
but it's not sad.
No, I wouldn't call it sad.
But anyway, next week we'll talk about Pungent Stench.
Yay!
Pungent Stench. Pungent Stench.
Oh, I'll tell you about that after the.
All right. Thank you for listening. If you are curious about more episodes you can listen to as we head into Death Metal December, maybe follow our Twitter and our Facebook pages. We post episode links there if you want to listen on your browser, or if you just want a notification when a new episode's out. Otherwise, it might be easier to just subscribe to our feed on your Apple Podcast app or on Libsyn's The Podcast Source, which is the app that I have on my Android phone because fuck Apple, dude. I don't give a shit. Have whatever phone you like.
Yeah.
This is America.
America.
So thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Metalist Podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations.